What's going on, Spitfires? Welcome back to another episode of the Spitfire Podcast. I'm your host, Lauren Lemunion, the Spitfire Coach, and I'm so glad that you're here for another episode. We've got a good one today. This might be a surprising topic, but I think it's super important, especially as we are going back out into the world. We are leaving our homes and the people that inhabit them, or maybe we were living alone, and we are needing to interact. But before we get there, if you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts, or you can go to spitfirepodcast.com. And if you feel so moved, we would love a review. So today we're talking about how to make friends as an adult. And I didn't realize how much of an issue this was until right before the pandemic. I had a couple clients who were like, I realize all I do is talk to my coworkers, hang out with my husband or wife, and my kids. I don't have any outside friends. And I thought that was really interesting because I've had a lot of friends that I've made, being out and about. I'm kind of an extrovert. I just generally like talking to strangers. And I realized that this is not a skill that everybody has. And it is hard for some people to make new friends. And so I'm going to give you kind of the playbook on how to put yourself out there and make some new awesome friends. This is what has been working for my clients. This is kind of what I do, but now I'm going to shift it and alter it a bit if you are more on the introverted spectrum, because I don't think a lot of people are like me, where it's like you immediately see someone, you're like, we're going to have so much in common, let's go be best friends. I literally told, this is a side story, I went and worked out like a month ago, and there was a business card on my door from an IRS agent, like basically someone who was probably looking for somebody that owed a lot of money. And I get this card. I'm like, I'm going to call this person because I follow the rules. I pay my taxes. And we ended up having this great conversation. And I was like, we're going to be best friends now. And he was like, no, we're not, Lauren. I was like, oh, but we are. And I feel like I have that kind of mentality around people where I just want everyone to be my best friend. Well, that's not true. I find it pretty funny. And I'm like, we're going to be friends. The reality is you're not meant to be friends with everybody, and everyone is not meant to be friends with you. And the reason for that is because we get to determine how close we let people in to the most vulnerable, raw pieces of us. We have kind of those sacred elements of us that only a few people, if anybody, knows about us. And so we don't want to just open the floodgates and say, here is who I am. Come in and see all of the skeletons in my closet and judge me accordingly. Because that is where the fear comes from. When people are meeting new people, it's like, how much do I share? What do I lead with? I don't know. Are they judging me? Am I judging them? And the reality is you are probably way more in your head than they are. And if they're in their head, then they're probably mirroring back the same behavior, and then it's just not going to work. So the best thing you can do is to first take a breath and realize that you are like probably 90% of the people in this world that finds it hard to make friends. When we were younger, we were friends with people in our neighborhood, friends that we had activities with, friends we went to school with, because we had frequent interaction and proximity. We got to know them just by observing them, seeing how they interacted, knowing where they lived. We had those kind of trust-building aspects already banked. But now we're in this virtual world where we don't know anyone beyond kind of a rectangle, or maybe it's just an icon on LinkedIn or on Facebook. We might have a little bit more information if they're part of a group. We might have common interests. We might have friends in common. So we can gather some information there, but we're not necessarily, neighbors with them. And actually, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to be friends with my neighbors. And I would actually agree with that. I would say you can be friendly with your neighbors, but once you cross that barrier into being friends, know that there are lots of assumptions and expectations of how much time, what they know. That proximity gets blown up. So if you have not befriended your neighbors yet, do so with trepidation and with lots of gut checks. Make sure that they are the people that you want knowing all your business, because they're probably peeking in. It's probably happening. So anyway, let's talk about making friends outside of your neighborhood, outside of that immediate social circle that is already in your geography. So let's imagine that you are in a couple groups. Let's say that one is career focused, another one is related to running. No, you know what? Let's say it's pickleball because I love pickleball. Oh, I'm such a fan. And then let's say one is related to a community service effort. So in the town that I used to live in, there was a whole neighbors helping each other out through COVID. Okay, so we have 3 groups there. Now, the people who are inhabiting those groups are going to have some similarities, but they're not going to be necessarily carbon copies of you. So we already have a vetting tool of we have at least one thing in common because we're part of this group. The next part is, what is the energy of the person that you want to attract in as your friend? And this is going to take some advanced work, because what we tend to do is we see someone, we're like, they're cool, I want to just bring them in. But we don't necessarily think about it as, is this going to be a match for my energy? So if you are someone who is high on the introverted preference spectrum, attracting someone in like me who is higher on the extroverted might be a little much. I know I can be a little much. And actually a lot of my friends are on the introverted side because we go real deep. We have really awesome conversations. So think about it, what is the energy? What are those additional interests that you're looking for? What are the activities that would be really cool? If someone is in your geography, is it going and playing a sport? Is it going for a walk? Is it just having a conversation? Is it having coffee? Not all of this has to be in person, but there's something to be said about just getting out of our everyday environments to mix it up, maybe a neutral environment. So if you meet someone and you're like, I really like what you had to say there, I would love to talk to you more about this. Do you have some time? So make sure that once you have that initial introduction, that you follow up and you set a plan. I was reading on one of my friends' Instagram stories of making friends in your 30s and 40s is cool, let's hang out, let's make a plan. You make a plan and then someone reschedules it 4 times and then you never hear from them for 6 months. I'm one of those people that if we reschedule, I'm setting up another plan. We're going to make it happen. If it reschedules at least 3 times, then I'm like, Maria, you're not really into it. And I don't take it personally. I'm just kind of all right, cool. This isn't a priority for you. I'm going to go find someone where it is a priority because I like making friends. I like having new people to play with and have different perspectives. So think about what is the frequency that you want to hang out with someone. Maybe it's once a month, maybe it's once every 6 months. That's cool. But be very deliberate in the activity, the invitation, the time, the place, all that. And make it super easy. Make it close by, make it a low lift, and have a start and stop time in your mind. And then see where it goes. You're not going to have this bestie that, you write in your diary about if you don't put yourself out there. So it's all about trial and error. What do you like in friends? What don't you like? What are the aspects about you want to be highlighted? How do you want to show up? Do you want to have fun? Do you not? Maybe it's a book club. So anything that's kind of stretching you outside of your comfort zone that's not inducing a panic attack is what we're striving for. So put yourself out there. This is going to be your challenge. I want you to have at least one new conversation a week. Someone who you haven't spent a lot of time with. I want you to try a new activity, invite them to coffee, go for a walk, go kayaking, do something that mixes it up for you. Because if you stay in this pattern of this is what I've always done, then your brain's not stretching and trying new things. It's just kind of getting tired and it's all right, boo, this is exhausting. So switch it up. Try to find new things about new people. Ask curious questions. This is where introverts do really well because you're good on the one-on-ones and going deep. So trust that skill, trust that muscle, and use it. Use it to your advantage. So maybe it's about just having a get-together at the park or playing a game, like a board game or card game. But see what comes from that and see what kind of friendships develop. We are social beings. Even if you are introverted, you still need to interact. We still need that human connection. So even with, the risk of the COVID Delta variant that's happening, there are ways to safely do this in your comfort zone. And make sure that you talk about it up front, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. And you'll find that the more transparent you are, the more clear you are, the more upfront you are, the more you're going to attract in that like energy. So when we know what we want, we can set the stage to attract that in, to pinpoint it, to go seek it, versus saying what I don't want. So all of those qualities that you're like, I don't want a friend like that, I want you to convert it into what you do want. Because once you do that, you will be amazed at what starts to be attracted in. So go make friends. I want to hear all about your besties. I want to know what connections you're making. Make sure you message me, Lauren@spitfirecoach.com, and keep me posted. And to all you Spitfires out there, keep being awesome.